Smiley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for February 2022. So on Tuesday, February 22nd, we have the closing of the 2222 portal that opened up on February 2nd. This has been a very small window of very powerful energies coming into our realm to help shift humanity. This is a very potent time in the cosmos. We're getting a lot of light code downloads. We're getting a lot of really intense visions on what it is that we as a humanity, as a collective, need to do in order to shift into the right direction, in order to build new Earth. It's been a very potent time. We've seen this on the collective stage. We've seen it in our own individual lives. It's like the universe pressed a fast forward button, and we are rapidly processing, getting rid of the old and aligning with the new. But what is most important to talk about here today on February 22nd is the fact that the USA will be having their Pluto return. So let's talk about this. When a country or a person, this is why knowing your birth chart is so important, when you are essentially, quote unquote, born into this earthly realm, the snapshot of the sky, where the planets were, the degrees in which they were at, the conjunctions, the aspects, everything in which it was making in the cosmos is literally like an individual specific fingerprint for that individual. But in this case, we're talking about a country. So as we know, we had the USA born on July 4th, 1776. We're going to go through a little bit of a history lesson here, but I got to break it down and kind of build up to what it is that we need to focus on. So at that particular time, when technically the USA was born, we have a birth chart. I have it up on the screen. You can take a look at it. Many of you might see some things pop out if you have an understanding of what astrology is all about. I'm not going to do a whole birth chart interpretation, but we want to look at the finer points. First of all, the USA is a Cancer. It is a sun in Cancer at 13 degrees. And this is important for a lot of reasons. First of all, Cancer is the mother energy. It's about fertility. It's about nurturing. It's about the home. It's about the foundation in which we are setting in order to take care of other people. That's a very interesting aspect of the USA's chart. You will notice though, because we're talking about the Pluto return, that Pluto was in a retrograde at the time of the USA's birth. And Pluto, we have to talk about what Pluto's all about. First of all, he's all about death, destruction. Why? Because he's got to help us get rid of the old structure, the old system, the old foundation that is blocking us from reaching the highest potential. He cleans that slate, usually pretty violently, in order to have a space where we can rebirth new elements, where we can heal, where we can renew ourselves. This Pluto energy is a very deep, powerful transformation. In Capricorn, well, what do we know about Pluto and Capricorn? Capricorn is about control. It's about leadership. It is about stability, because of course it is an earth energy, but it's like the boss, the karmic boss, if you will, the authority figure. And because Pluto in Capricorn in the USA's chart is in a retrograde, this is about the internalized power struggle of recognizing where it is that the darkness needs to come to light. Especially in the second house, this is about worth and value and land. That's why the USA is so consumed with property and taxes and land ownership and liberty and freedom and self-worth and money and value. But here's the thing. Empires usually only last about 250 years, approximately. The last time that we've seen an empire get to this particular stage, because again, Pluto return takes 248 years for Pluto to go all the way around and end up at its exact point in which it was at the time of the USA's birth. That's why we're having the Pluto return. The last time that we've seen an empire actually reach this particular point in their evolution was Rome. And that is when the Rome Empire fell. That was when Rome collapsed. So we got a lot going on. We got a lot to talk about. Now, here's the thing. What I dislike about this particular event is that there's a lot of people out there fear mongering. Yep, that's been a common narrative for us for the past couple of years, is fear mongering. Let me just say that I've been a little bit confused on why everybody is expecting there to be some pivotal point, some pivotal situation take place on the 22nd when Pluto is in its return, in its fullest peak of return, because what we should have been concerned about is back in 2008 when Pluto actually entered into Capricorn. What we don't understand, and what we're just coming to understand, is that the damage, the stage has already been set. Now, with Pluto's exact return, now we're wrapping things up. Right? Now we're seeing how the stage is coming full circle, how the story is coming full circle. And over the next couple of years, especially in these very late degrees of Pluto being in Capricorn, activating the USA's natal Pluto, we are going to see how we are setting ourselves up, most importantly, for Pluto moving into Aquarius. Okay? That's coming in a couple of years. So what do we want to talk about first? Well, we want to talk about the fact that, let's rewind and do a history lesson. In the early 1760s, prior to, the USA actually becoming its own independent country, let's say, its own independent entity, a lot of the separate colonies were kind of coming up with ideas on freedom, on liberty. Of course, many of them very distraught, very rebellious against England, the crown mother, if you will. And this revolution, because that's what it was, this revolution of the people against the greater, grander government, let's say, at that particular time, they went ahead and they revolted. They fought for their independence. And on July 4th in 1776, that's when the USA was born. Now, creepy little hints and things that I'm going to throw in here. The founding fathers of USA were heavily influenced by the Roman Empire, even by Greek mythology, okay? And there's a reason why Rome fell, and it was because they were the leaders of the dark agenda. And the founding fathers of USA kind of put on a guise like they were, here to make things better, and they were here to start fresh and whatever, when realistically all they did was bring in their darkness from their beliefs, from their connections, and create a quote unquote country and empire based off of the dark agenda. And we are just starting to realize this now. So the founding fathers, being very heavily influenced by Rome, basically seen Rome fall, seen Rome collapse, and said, we have to shift power somewheres. Where are we going to do that? Let's do it in the quote-unquote free world. What a joke. Now, I get in the grand scheme of things that the USA, in comparisons to some of the other older parts of the world, definitely looks like the land of the free. But it is also the land of illusion, and that illusion is crumbling very, very quickly. And it started to crumble back in 2008 when Pluto first moved into Capricorn. So let's go back for a second. What was going on in 2008? Well, we had George W. Bush in power. God help us, because, of course, let's just keep in mind that it is said that the countries get the leaders in which they deserve based off of their collective vibration and frequency. That's a very interesting spin to put on things. And especially noticing that all the presidents come from the same bloodlines. Now we start to kind of see where it is that the sneakiness, the darker force agenda has weaseled its way into very powerful positions and placements throughout the world. So George W. had this whole concept. His whole mission was to bring gas down, to push the dollar up, and to kind of, blur the lines, because at that time there was a love-hate relationship with the rest of the world. Here's the thing. In 2008, what happened? The economy crashed. Real estate crashed, right? There were a lot of problems. We went into a very dark time in 2008. And again, may I remind you that when Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008, it started off in the first house of the USA's natal chart. This is how they appear to the rest of the world. This is, we call this the personality house, how you want to be seen to the rest of the world. Well, that started to crumble pretty freaking quick. Why? Because of the hunger that the USA had in order to be the ruler of the world, to be the dominator of the world. Again, Capricorn vibes, wanting to control everything, right? We have a problem with control. So coming in, before we even got to the 2008 pivotal point where Pluto moved into Capricorn, the predictions for Pluto moving into Capricorn were this. Let's go over this and see where it is and how far we've come. They talked about tighter control, the government over its people. Well, let's check that off. I would say that happened. They talked about infringing on the privacy and liberties of the people. Well, let's check that off. That happened. Let's talk about the laws and the government tightening the laws around their people in order to conform. Well, we can check that off too. We talked about predicting the fact that the more government resistance from the people, the more the government was going to put on the squeeze, right? Instilling fear. We're talking about fear mongering here. That is the truest form of power, is to put the people that you rule over in a state of fear. Because what happens to the subconscious mind when you're in a state of fear? You are opened up to allowing somebody to lead you out of fear and into safety. So we had this whole fear-mongering narrative begin. It was also predicted that things were going to get very, very dark when it came to the government. And as we are now exploring, there's been a lot of darkness be illuminated, a lot of corruption be illuminated. This is why we are seeing the world in the state that it's currently at, because everything has got to rise to the surface in order for us to alchemize that darkness into power. We have to uncover the depths of darkness in which the government has definitely been going to great lengths to hide. Here's the thing though, we're at the point in the government, and again, I'm Canadian, but I'm very, I'd like to say well-versed on what's going on in the world. In the USA, it's always been Democrats against Republicans. What we're starting to see is that they're all corrupt. They are two very different wings of the same bird. This is getting to a point where we are recognizing worldwide, but especially starting in the USA, because of the lies, the betrayal, the corruption that is now being illuminated from that area of the world, that we got to scrap it. We got to scrap. This is a false democracy that we've been fooled and tricked under. They're all of the darker force agenda. What we need to do is return to independent parties where they actually represent the people, where the votes of the people actually matter. Because, of course, voting in elections, they're all freaking fouled with. I'm trying to be very careful with what I say because I just suspect that this is going to be censored to the nines. But here's the thing. The power has been taken away from the people for so freaking long and put these people in power that do not have the collective's best interest in heart. They're lining their own pockets. And basically, before we even came into 2008, we suspected that Pluto in Capricorn was going to further divide not only the people from the government, but the areas, the parties of the government against themselves. And we've seen over the last couple of years, especially, how that came to be true. We also suspected that we were going to get hella paranoid about what the government was actually up to. Again, when Pluto is in Capricorn, it's about a leader who wants to control, who wants to dominate. And you do that at whatever cost necessary. This is definitely where we're starting to see the power of corporations and businesses being too intertwined with the government, with the politicians. And we are going to change that, but that change isn't going to come until Pluto jumps into Aquarius, okay? So we're wrapping up this movie that Pluto in Capricorn has kind of been in. And let me tell you, Back in 2015, approximately from 2015 to 2019, we had Uranus in Aries at that time, square to Pluto in Capricorn in the US chart. This is exactly when the revolt happened. Why? Because voices were being censored. Information was being censored. The lies, the betrayal, the corruption was trying to be suppressed because it was coming out at rapid rates. So now we're in this very interesting latter part of the degrees of Pluto being in Capricorn. We're at a 27th degree here. Pluto will be going into Pluto's return in 2025, and this is going to be the redefining period of what the USA is all about. This is going to be the identity crisis that the USA is going through, because 2023 to 2025 is when the actual empire collapses. And we're talking, like, I'm coming to you live right now, where we have this whole Ukraine-Russia conflict going on. And what we're starting to find out as of right now, so I'm not going to speak, I'm not going to speak words into existence, but as we're finding out right now, this is a propaganda scheme by the US president to try and hide the lies, the corruption, and betrayal that this particular family has been doing, using Ukraine as a playing field, as a common ground, if you will, for all the shadiness and all the darkness. As of right now, even people in Ukraine are saying that things haven't changed much, that there doesn't feel like there's an impending war. Of course, that can change in an instant, but a lot of this is to hide a lot of the lies, a lot of the corruption, a lot of the horrible, horrible, horrible things that the USA has been part of, using Ukraine basically as a safe house. Okay, so yes, when we talk about death and destruction, we think about war, right? Hopefully we can avoid that war, although we have been in World War III for quite some time. It's an information and spiritual war, but hopefully we can get away from the actual, like, bombs and bangs of the war. So 2023 to 2025 is when the US will actually collapse, bringing full circle the economy crash, bringing full circle the real estate issue. If you don't know about BlackRock buying up all the housing down there, you should definitely look into that. If you don't know about Gates buying up all the agriculture land down there in order to take away livestock to push this plant-based food crap, definitely look into that. They want to control every aspect of your life. They want you dependent on government resources. They want you eating the food in which they've poisoned. They want your kids in a school system that was meant to brainwash them and indoctrinate them. They want you to be constantly sick, because of course the USA was built on pharmaceutical companies being so intertwined with government officials that's like, there is no health and wellness in the USA. There is just sick care. There's not health care, there's just sick care. They're profiting off the people, right? And the lies and the corruption are coming to a head. So we are going to see this redefinement. We're at a very pivotal point right now in the world, especially with a lot of world leaders, but right now we're talking about the USA, where they are going to have an identity crisis. We are going to see a reworking of the Constitution here in the last haul of Pluto in Capricorn. Why? Because the political system is out of whack. The social system is out of whack. The cultural divide, the economic crash, a rebirth is absolutely necessary. This is a very interesting point of time, because if you'll see in the birth chart there, they have the sun and Jupiter and Venus and Mars all in the 7th house of relationships. And of course, when we talk about the 7th house in astrology, that's how we share ourselves with other people, share our energy, share our resources, share even with our enemies. But of course, what sits across from the 7th house is the 1st house, which is the independent, the individual. So if the US is so worried about its damn self at the cost of their relationships with the rest of the world, we're going to have a problem. If the USA is not able to balance their want, need, and desire for world domination which at this point isn't looking so good, they are going to have a problem with the rest of the world. They've already had a love-hate relationship with the rest of the world, but the lies, the corruption, the darkness, the pain that the U.S. has had a hand in creating in the global nation is coming to a head. It is being revealed. So there's a huge threat right now to land ownership down there. Again, BlackRock, okay? That's a big deal down there, buying up all the land, basically putting it a position where one corporation is going to be owning most of the land, owning most of the real estate, pushing homeowners, the potential for home ownership all the way into the gutter. The big thing that they're talking about now is build back better. This is build back bullshit, okay? What they keep telling you is that eventually you will own nothing and you will be happy. That is the, I'm going to say, NWO 2030 agenda. Please look that up if you don't know what I'm talking about. This is a crisis point for the USA. And let me tell you, it's important regardless of where it is that you live in the world, because the USA, when the USA falls, in whichever way it decides to fall, whether it be gracefully or, total narcissistic meltdown, will have a domino effect on the rest of the world. I love the American people. I hate their government. I hate most governments. Okay. They are not here for us. And this is why when Pluto moves into Aquarius, we are going to see a rebellion. We are going to see the revolution. We are going to see the people, the collective, take their power back. So we have some work to do, because there is going to be this redefinement, this identity crisis that the USA is going to go through. This is going to affect how the rest of the world not only sees them, but how the rest of the world will interact with them. I feel like when Pluto moves into Aquarius, so again, let me just break this down. Pluto moves into Aquarius in 2023, but then retrogrades. Doesn't technically move into Aquarius for good until 2024, and it will stay there until 2044. Yes, that's right. 20 years Pluto spends in one sign. That's why we have to go back to 2008 in order to realize the beginning, the storyline, the topics and themes that we were meant to explore, the lessons that we were meant to learn while Pluto was moving through Capricorn. And here it is now that we are wrapping this storyline up. We are going to provide it with the ending that it deserves, preparing us for moving into Pluto, moving into Aquarius. That is going to be the most powerful time. So are we going to expect some kind of pivotal shift with the Pluto return? Well, yeah, but I don't think it's going to be a surprise. I think we're feeding off of the predictions that we had coming into Pluto moving into Capricorn. I think it is providing an ending point, wrapping up a good ending point, a closing of a story that we've been experiencing since 2008. I feel like we are definitely going to see where the cards are going to lie. And let me also say that because humanity, because of the collective waking up, because of the vibration frequency that we are all now accelerating to, there are multiple storylines, multiple timelines opening up for us on how this is going to end. And that's why it's very important to stay out of the fear-mongering stage of the propaganda that, of course, everybody in the world has an opportunity to fall into. But that's why it's important for us to keep our vibration high so that we can align with the best timeline. So what is the best timeline? Well, I'm going to say that the best timeline would be to expose the government leaders that I think, this great grand pandemic is doing to them, whether they knew that that was going to happen or not. I truly believe that the white hats are in charge, that our highest energy tribe is working miracles behind the scenes, and that the plan that they were looking to put into place, of course, to fulfill their wishes and agenda, is semi-backfiring on them, because they didn't expect this many people to wake up. They didn't expect love and unity to reign. They thought that they were going to create a further divide amongst us, and that is not happening. And of course, that is shifting the timeline. What I will say is that I think that we will see the economy crash to a point where we actually return to gold. And again, if you don't know about the Federal Reserve collapsing and crashing, look into that. That's a key indicator that, we are going to see that US dollar dip down into a scary place where we're going to have to revert to gold standard. I feel like we are going to see the government collapse, maybe return to some independent governship, if you will. I feel like we are going to expose big pharma. I think that's happening already. I think that we are going to expose the healthcare system, the school system, the welfare system, the social security system. I think that all of this darkness is leading us to a very bright light of illuminating the darkness, the pain that they have afflicted. When I say they, I do mean global leaders, but the US has been leading the darkness, okay? Again, we have to go back to the founding fathers and recognize that they were a part of a dark force agenda trying to keep the Roman Empire alive under a different guise. So I think that you're going to see everything be exposed. I think we are going to have to come together in a collective community state, take our power back. I think you will see individual like-minded communities come together. I think you will see that the healthcare system needs to be revamped. We have to return to natural law, natural medicine. I think that you will see that big pharma's got to go because it's too intertwined with the politicians. It's almost going to be like NASCAR, where our government officials are going to have to wear, badges of everybody that is pouring money into their pockets, their sponsorship deals. I think that we are going to see a lot of shifting in how people are coming together instead of furthering dividing themselves. And I think that the rest of the world is going to show up in a big way because, again, they've awakened a monster, and this monster is the collective. And we have been suppressed for far too long. They have gone to great lengths to hide us from our power. They have gone to great lengths to basically shield us from our individual sovereignty. They have gone to great lengths to keep us in a lazy state of confusion, caught in the rat race, so that we don't even care about what it is that they're doing behind our backs. And I think that we will see a crash in all the right ways, a death in all the right ways. I think that they are going to, when I say they, the higher ups, I think they are going to clean the slate pretty good in order for there to be a natural healing, a powerful healing within the United States, and give us a very clean slate in order to rebuild on. And of course, that is returning back to a lot of what our ancestors did for us, right? Natural medicine. Not allowing our kids to be babysat and brainwashed for 8 hours out of the day by people that aren't teaching them any kind of truth in history, teaching them a version of history that they want them to believe in. If you haven't realized yet that you have to forget everything that you've ever been taught and teach yourself what your truest truth is, that's where we're at. We've been lied to. We've been bamboozled. We've been disillusioned. And it's all because of these systems that these very few, very powerful elitists came up with in order to keep us from our truest selves, our truest power. So the rest of the world right now needs to stand back and take some very, very powerful hints and cues from what's going on in the United States right now. Of course, this is not against, it's not me sitting here and saying Americans are horrible. I freaking love you guys. But the government that has done all of this horrible stuff to you and all the horrible stuff to the rest of the people in the world, they need to pay for that. And they will pay for that when Pluto moves into Aquarius and we take our power back, when we revolt, when we go ahead and start the revolution. So just a couple of things that I want to leave you with, just taking a quick look at the USA birth chart here. First of all, the fact that they have their moon in Aquarian energy in this third house, they are definitely cold and rigid when it comes to the emotions of what's needed for their people, and are so highly focused on being innovative and progressive, especially when it comes to technology, communications, and science, that they have really, really bypassed what it is that all of these very beautiful technology and scientific ideas could do for the world. And instead, they're looking to actually profit off of it. Surprise, surprise. They have their natal Chiron in Aries in the fourth house. So, they're wounded in their independence. The way to heal for them is to be the leadership, but to be pure of heart. And when we talk about being pure of heart, we have to take a look at where Leo rules in their chart. And Leo actually rules over the majority of their 8th house of death, rebirth, renewal, and transformation. The true node, their soul point, their destiny point is here in Leo, in the 8th house. What does this tell us? That if they are able to act in raw, vulnerable alignment with the heart space, with what is true, with what is right, and stand in their pride, we have a true opportunity for them to reach their highest timeline. But right now, their ego, their false ego that they've created, is their worst enemy. And when we talk about enemies, we also talk about the 7th house. And the 7th house for them is ruled over by both Gemini and Cancer energy. They want to appear like they take care of everyone else. They want to appear like they will stand up and protect and nurture other countries that are needed. But their Mars is in Gemini here in the 7th house, which means that they are very aggressive in dividing people amongst the information that they put out there. Very, very sketchy with the information that they put out, especially to the other nations, the other countries in the world. They want to be aggressive in leading the world into this technological age, the scientific age, all of these beautiful things, but they do it by suppressing a lot of the information that could really benefit the rest of the world. They're so caught up in America being the best and the greatest that they're missing the point that we're all humans. And that's where Pluto and Aquarius is going to take us when we all get there, is that we recognize that humanity is most important, not individual nations. So the fact that they have their Mercury in a retrograde in the 8th house in Cancer and energy is very indicative of the information, the knowledge that they go to great lengths in order to suppress from their people. They think that they're taking care of people by hiding the information and knowledge from them. Couldn't be further from the truth. They're doing it for their own motivations. Power is knowledge, or I should say, knowledge is power. And they are going to great lengths to make sure that they're the only ones that have the knowledge, therefore that they can stay in power. This is going to be an interesting wrap up of the storyline that began back in 2008. I do believe that this is absolutely necessary. Death is absolutely necessary in life in order for new rebirthing powers to actually take place, right? You can't have a new beginning without a very, very destructive ending. It's a bittersweet time. It's a time of adjustment, of course. It's hella scary. But what I can say is that the people, not only Americans, the people of humanity, of the world, of the collective, we're all vibing high. We are all unified. Even when there are divisive topics and themes such as race and religion and class and beliefs and, politicians and blah, 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 those are man-made constructs. That is an earthly construct that is meant to divide us in order for us to stay at war with one another so that they can wage war on us. Humanity is waking up at an accelerated rate. We are understanding that love is going to win, okay? Knowledge is coming back to us because we're awakening to our inner power. We're awakening to the bullshit corruption that they have created. We are awakening to the delusional world, the matrix in which they've created to keep us stuck in this enslavement, energy harvesting type of earth plane. And it's time for that to stop. But of course, we have to provide a beautiful ending before a beautiful beginning can take place. And that's what we're going to see from now until about 2024, 2025. Keep in mind, Pluto moves very low and slow. Right now, all planets are direct, which means that we're going to see a lot of transformation, a lot of action. Pluto's then going to go retrograde. We're going to aspect this particular degree a couple of times before Pluto actually moves into Aquarian energy. This is the final chapter, the final stage, the final hurrah of watching a very delusional, dark empire come to the death, come to the destruction, come to the ending point that we need it to come to in order to build back better in all the right kind of ways. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully it made sense. Hopefully you understand that we're not going to sit around and wait for a major event to happen, because the major event already began back in 2008. Now we are just sitting back with our popcorn, very aware, very observant of the comings and goings, and very interested in seeing how we're going to wrap this very dark timeline and storyline up in order for us to get prepared for a big, bright storyline to take place when Pluto moves out of Capricorn and moves into Aquarius.